The tycoons of social media have to stop pretending that they're friendly nerd gods building a better world and admit they're just tobacco farmers in t-shirts, selling an addictive product to children. Because let's face it, checking your likes is the new smoking. Philip Morris just wanted your lungs. The App Store wants your soul.
There are 2 billion people, more than 2 billion people on Facebook. That's more than the number, it's about the number of notional followers of Christianity. People check their phones 150 times a day, the millennial sort of audience. And so if you think about it, from the moment you wake up, it's like you're jacked in to this environment. And thoughts start streaming into your head, designed by a few technology companies.
What we find is the typical person checks their phone every 15 minutes or less, and half of the time they check their phone, there's no alert, no notification. It's coming from inside their head telling them, gee, I haven't checked in Facebook in a while. I haven't checked on this Twitter feed for a while. I wonder if somebody commented on my Instagram post. That then generates cortisol, and it starts to make you anxious, and eventually your goal is to get rid of that anxiety, so you check in.
And apparently we feel stressed when we can't get our phone or when our battery is about to die. You probably know this feeling. And a research done in Australia among 3,000 people under the age of 30 found that 9 out of every 10 admit to feel this anxiety while having his battery dying.
Steve Jobs revolutionized the entire world with the iPhone, and he never let his children use it because he did not want them dependent on technology.
Right now, an infant is getting their first laptop that's soft and squishy and makes noise. Right now, a child is being born online and being favorited and retweeted.
The hypergenerational segregation of our time is bizarre, unhealthy, and historically unprecedented. You've never seen the like of people sitting at a table in a restaurant not talking to each other because they're texting and using their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
More than half of young children today have access to these devices, and I read this morning in the Age that something like 13% of children age 2 can order their own apps. I mean, I find it hard to imagine how a parent would give a child age 2 a device which was allowing them to order their own app. So, where are we with respect to research on infants, toddlers, and young children and pregnancy? Well, there's almost no research underway, which again is why I'm delighted to be here to talk with you about what could be developed. Believe it or not, this is the iPotty. Now, this is not a joke. I have actually talked to grandmothers, I'm one of them. My grandchildren did not have an iPotty, I promise you. Their father sometimes acts like he did. A lot of people today take devices into the bathroom all the time, but there are actually young children who will not go to the potty without their iPad. Does anybody know anybody like that? Any kids? Yes. Is that amazing? And nobody's even thinking about this as what it might mean for radiation exposure. And Parent Magazine called the iPad the best babysitter. I mean, if you need an iPad for a babysitter, you need to rethink having children.
And the pressure that's on us to be like everybody else is so great that everybody tries to live like they're in a reality show.
As a culture, we don't have enough in common anymore. And that's because the internet, which was supposed to unite the world, has become too adept at serving us personalized content. Do you know what I saw on Yahoo's front page this morning? No, you don't, because mine isn't the same as yours. People get news feeds now that just spit back customized stories based on what we've clicked on in the past.
We are great consumers, but poor producers. We will buy what we can't afford with money that we don't have to impress people we don't even know, trying to be like everybody else. Get off of Facebook and put your face in a book.
Right now, a teenager is photoshopping their selfie because as a society, we're telling them they're not good enough. Right now, influencers encourage narcissism without knowing the breadth and depth of their impact on their audiences. Right now, 40,000 spectators are in an Olympic football arena watching a competitive esports competition because this is this generation's football match.
There's always this narrative that technology is neutral and it's up to us to choose how we use it. This is just not true.
Technology is not neutral.
It's not neutral. They want you to use it in particular ways and for long periods of time because that's how they make their money.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed. It was unintentional, but now you got to decide how much you're willing to give up, how much of your intellectual independence. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem.
1 billion of us own a smartphone, and we know how addicting it can be. One former Google employee says this is no accident. Indeed, it is by design. And he became troubled by the relentless efforts of app developers to keep us glued to the gadgets. So Tristan Harris founded an organization called Time Well Spent. He's asking the tech industry to bring what he calls ethical design to its products. NewsHour special correspondent Kat Wise has more, part of our ongoing collaboration with The Atlantic.
I noticed when I was at Stanford, there was a class called the Persuasive Technology Design class, and there's a whole lab at Stanford that teaches students how to apply persuasive psychology principles into technology to persuade people to use products in a certain way. So it's not about giving you all this freedom, it's about sucking you in to take your time.
So the goal is to keep us on our devices longer. Why?
For any company whose business model is advertising or engagement-based advertising, meaning they care about the amount of time someone spends on the product, they make more money the more time people spend. So the game becomes, how can I throw different persuasive techniques to get people to stay, to spend as long as possible, and to come back tomorrow.
And it's clearly working. Today, wherever we go, we're inevitably surrounded by fellow citizens staring into their phones, as we usually are too.
What do you think about when you're out in public and see people on their cell phones?
Have you ever been in a moment where you're sitting there and you just start using your phone to do something productive? Maybe you're in the back of a car, in a taxi, or you're on public transportation. Your phone is always giving you a way to spend time that can be more productive, more entertaining, or more stimulating than reality. I often say that this puts a new choice on life's menu that's sweeter than reality. And so we're turning to it more and more often. We check our phones about 150 times a day.
And what are the costs of that sort of constant interaction with technology, both on an individual level and as a society?
Well, I think each of us have to tune in for our own experience. I mean, what does it feel like when we check our phones 150 times a day? Or what does it feel like if we've been scrolling and had our face down and not breathing very much when we're scrolling for, say, 20 minutes? I mean, how do we feel on the inside?
How do you feel on the inside?
I feel like I don't feel very good after that. I feel like my anxiety goes up. I feel more concerned about what I'm missing out on, who I haven't gotten back to. People think that I'm bad at getting back to them. All of this sort of psychology emerges all because of this one thing in my pocket. And we've never had a media device that literally 1 billion people are kind of being programmed in the same way, where so much influence is in the hands of a few technology designers.
It sounds like there's just a lot of sort of trickery going on here.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem to, get people's attention at all costs.
It is, in large part, our id writ large.
How so?
Well, you mentioned all those things, the sort of primal drives.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the things that we like and hate and fear. They're all there on the internet. They're a projection of our limbic system. It's true.
No, it makes sense. And the thinking of it as thinking of corporations and just thinking of just human beings communicating online through these social media networks as some sort of an organism it's a cyborg. It's a combination. It's a combination of electronics and biology.
Yeah.
Does this
in some measure, like, is the success of these online systems is sort of a function of how much limbic resonance they're able to achieve with people. The more limbic resonance, the more engagement.
Whereas, like, one of the reasons why probably Instagram is more enticing than Twitter.
Limbic resonance.
Yeah, you get more images, more video.
Yes.
It's tweaking your system more.
Yes.
Do you worry about or wonder, in fact, about what the next step is? I mean, a lot of people didn't see Twitter coming, that, communicating with 140 characters or 280 now would be a thing that people would be interested in. Like, it's going to excel, it's going to become more connected to us, right?
Yes, things are getting more and more connected. They're, at this point, constrained by bandwidth. Our input-output is slow, particularly output.
And it almost seems like it's built into us. It's like what we like and what we want, that we're fueling this thing that's constantly around us all the time. And it doesn't seem possible that people are going to pump the brakes. It doesn't seem possible at this stage when we're constantly expecting the newest cell phone, the latest Tesla update, the newest MacBook Pro. Everything has to be newer and better. And that's going to lead to some incredible point. And it seems like it's built into us. It almost seems like it's an instinct that we're working towards this, that we like it.
Mm-hmm. But it feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI, effectively. We are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence.
You feel like this is decades away or years away from being too late? If you have this fatalistic attitude and you feel like it's going, we're in almost like a doomsday countdown.
It's not necessarily a doomsday countdown. It's a
out of control countdown.
Out of control, yeah. People call it the singularity, and that's probably a good way to think about it. It's a singularity. It's hard to predict, like a black hole. What happens past the event horizon?
Right. So once it's implemented, it's very different because it will
once
be able to.
Once the genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen?
And it will be able to improve itself.
Yes.
That's where it gets spooky, right? The idea that it can do thousands of years of innovation very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then we'll be just ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It could be terrible, and it could be great. It's not clear.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, we will not control it.
Do you think that it's likely that we will merge somehow or another with this sort of technology and it'll augment what we are now? Or do you think it will replace us?
Well, that's the scenario. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. From a long-term existential standpoint, that's like the purpose of Neuralink, is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI. Because we have a bandwidth problem. You just can't communicate through your fingers. It's too slow.
And where's Neuralink at right now?
I think we'll have something interesting to announce in a few months. That's at least an order of magnitude better than anything else. Probably, I think better than probably anyone thinks is possible.
How much can you talk about that right now?
I don't want to jump the gun on that.
But what's like the ultimate, what's the idea behind it? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with it? Like, what would you like, best case scenario?
I think best case scenario, we effectively merge with AI, where AI serves as a tertiary cognition layer, where we've got the limbic system, kind of the primitive brain essentially. You've got the cortex. So you're currently in a symbiotic relationship. Your cortex and limbic system are in a symbiotic relationship. And generally people like their cortex and they like their limbic system. I haven't met anyone who wants to delete their limbic system or delete their cortex. Everybody seems to like both. And the cortex is mostly in service to the limbic system. People may think that the thinking part of themselves is in charge, but it's mostly their limbic system that's in charge. And the cortex is trying to make the limbic system happy. That's what most of that computing power is oriented towards. How can I make the limbic system happy? That's what it's trying to do. Now, if we can have a third layer, which is the AI extension of yourself, that is also symbiotic. And there's enough bandwidth between the cortex and the AI extension of yourself such that the AI doesn't de facto separate, then that could be a good outcome. That could be quite a positive outcome for the future.
So instead of replacing us, it will radically change our capabilities.
Yes, it will enable anyone who wants to have superhuman cognition.
But how much different than people today? Like if you had to explain it to a person who didn't really understand what you were saying, like how much different are you talking about? When you say radically improved, like what do you mean? You mean mind reading?
It would be difficult to really appreciate the difference. It's kind of like how much smarter are you with a phone or computer than without? You're vastly smarter, actually. You can answer any question. If you're connected to the internet, you can answer any question pretty much instantly, any calculation. Your phone's memory is essentially perfect. You can remember flawlessly. Your phone can remember videos, pictures, and everything perfectly. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which, or the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself that is your phone and computer is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. And we need to make that tiny straw like a giant river, a huge, high bandwidth interface. It's an interface problem, data rate problem. If we solve the data rate problem, then I think we can hang on to human-machine symbiosis through the long term. And then people may decide that they want to retain their biological self or not. I think they'll probably choose to retain their biological self.
Versus some sort of Ray Kurzweil scenario where they download themselves into a computer?
You will be essentially snapshotted into a computer at any time. If your biological self dies, you could probably upload into a new unit.
This technology involves putting in what they're calling small cells. Small cells only travel, the waves only travel about 500 feet, which means they need to be installed nearly everywhere, buildings, poles, things like that. So this is going to involve the implementation of a lot more infrastructure, and along with that, the potential danger related to a number of health concerns. I'm looking at a Kaiser Permanente study from December 2017 that was published in Scientific Reports that shows in San Francisco hundreds of pregnant women that were near what's known as magnetic field non-ionizing radiation that's associated with cell phones were at 2.72 times more likely to have miscarriages. And there are more studies like this. And because of this, and because of the fact that this has largely been ignored by the corporate media, the organization known as Project Censored, which is a nonprofit that has been around since 1976, Project Censored has named an article by The Nation that was published earlier this year called "How Big Wireless Convinced the U.S. That Cell Phones and Wi-Fi Are Safe," that looks at these studies. They've named that their #4 top censored story of 2018. So the concern is with increasing the amount of these towers that are going to be everywhere, small cells, they say they might be as big as a backpack or as big as a fridge, and having them literally littered throughout the city, we don't know what it's going to do. But as far as I know, there's been no hearings for the people of Houston. There was no discussion. When I asked the mayor and I asked the CEO of Verizon if they looked into this, both of them told me they were unaware of any studies related to health effects of this. I live in this city, and we're all going to have to deal with the results of this. What I'm saying is that the cell sites only travel about 500 feet, which is not very far, right? So that's why there's a rollout of so many of them. They won't operate on the same infrastructure that 4G and 3G and 2G have operated on. Although they're saying the bandwidth is going to allow for all sorts of different devices, driverless cars, all these kind of new futuristic things we want, it doesn't, there's no talk of, well, what is going to happen when we have to install these things every 500 feet on every single building, on every school and all that in order to make this work, What I told the mayor last week as well, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, in the last 2 weeks actually passed a new rule that now gives the federal government control of the 5G rollout. So cities will no longer, and once this rule goes into place, have a say. So if this does roll forward full steam without any study, not only on the health, but we have to think about the privacy aspect. 5G will bring along so many more interconnected devices where privacy will probably be a thing of the past. And these are things that are being talked about for those who looked. But as I said, this is one of the most censored stories of 2018. They compare it to big tobacco spreading propaganda about cigarettes back in the past. That big wireless is doing something very similar now to try to keep people from looking into the implications of these studies. So again, I invite you guys all to check your email. I would invite each of you who are interested, I will email you again. I would love to have any of you to come talk on our show. It's Mondays from 3 to 5. And to share your opinions and your thoughts on this. People are concerned. People are I'm here by myself as a journalist, but other people do have concerns, and they feel kind of like powerless. The mayor just announced last week, first 5G cell. It seems like it's already said and done, like there's nothing we can do about it. But I'm just here to offer an alternative opinion so that in the next 20 years, we don't end up with a bunch of people with cancer in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you for being present.
So I know my time's up.
All
Thank you.
Great. I really appreciate that. And I do want to just emphasize for folks that tomorrow night will be myself, Councilmember Hucker, and Theodora will be at the fire station meeting room to be able to discuss some of those issues in more depth. But thank you very much for that presentation. And the city clerk can send that around to the full city council.
Sometimes people say you should go to the federal government and tell them to fix this problem. The problem is that there is a revolving door between industry and government, and I just wanted to point out that Brendan Carr, FCC Commissioner, is former lawyer for a law company that represented the wireless industry in suing San Francisco when they tried to pass their cell phone ordinance about half a decade ago, because there's a lot of published research on EMF and Bs. There's going to be radiation levels that exceed FCC limits around each installation, and that we can discuss because that is actually exceeding FCC limits. And there are research showing all kinds of changes to bee behavior and physiology. Trees and plants as well. But then my question is, what about the decisions on tree trimming? Who will do the tree trimming? In New Zealand, there was a court ruling that said the property owner had to trim their trees because it interfered with a neighbor's wireless broadband.
The overall agenda is to create an artificial society, and they are going to have what is called smart cities. The whole city will be a smart, just like a smart meter and smartphone and smart TV and smart everything smart. They want to make the whole city smart. And so it's all, you're becoming microchipped. All your money is electronic. There's no physical money anymore. All of it is just in the cloud. All devices for the future that are created in the future is going to be hooked up to the Internet of Things, to this whole network. Cars will drive with AI driving, and so you're not driving the car anymore. You're not doing anything anymore. Shopping, etc., all these things are being provided for you. You just let the Internet of Things know what you need at home, and they will be delivered to you automatically. Amazon is already starting to have their drones flying out boxes to people and all that stuff. All this, and even trucks that are arriving with packages and stuff like that. There will be no drivers. They'll just be delivered automatically by robots. And so we are moving towards artificial intelligence. Did you know that the 5G antennas, first of all, because of the frequencies, they need to be installed very close to each other, between 2 to 10 houses. So the whole network is being created, including in the rural areas. So it's not just in cities, it's across the countries, all the countries of the world, and there's a race towards it right now. They're trying to be the first in the United States to install this.
Remember the TV show Star Trek? No, not the original, The Next Generation. Now, who wouldn't love to have access to such amenities as a teleporter, a holodeck, a food replicator, an android? But yet, the reality of all that is that there are real-life consequences for everything that we do as a civilization on this planet. Folks, they are rolling out this 5G technology. There is no stopping it. They're going forward with quantum computing, they are going forward with AI technology, and they will probably succeed because there are more than enough people that want it and are willing to pay for it, even with their health. So let's take a look at this new generation of mobile technology. The technology that will unite all smart electronic devices, great and small. As children, how cool was it to see someone on TV use a touchscreen? Now your TV is a touchscreen, soon to become a think screen. This is what's coming, and because people want to make their mobile device their main interface for everything, it will be what connects them to everything around them. The cell phone is going to wake you up in the morning. You're going to walk into the kitchen and the cell phone is going to tell the coffee machine to make coffee. You go into the bathroom to shower and the cell phone tells the shower radio to switch on. It will adjust to the appropriate volume and tune to the appropriate station, depending on your mood. You get dressed, you grab your stuff, and as you walk out the door, your cell phone begins to tell you about the weather, because it knows that you are leaving. In fact, the cell phone has already started your car for you. So what is 5G really? Well, first, it is not just one thing. It is a new world of technology that is being released that operate at that higher level of connectivity and speed that really brings everything of its kind together. I'm telling you, generally speaking, the things that 5G is going to allow us to do is pretty incredible. Now, in the first generation, and many of us who are not that old still remember, we used an analog system and communicated using analog signals. Once we made the switch to digital, all the technology associated with the analog system began to change. The second generation. This included the development of GSM, or Group Special Module, a global system for mobile communications, as well as the development of GPRS, General Packet Radio Service, and EDGE, Enhanced Data Rates for GSM evolution, which is needed as new devices join in on the system. And these were the digital systems used for mobile voice communications in the second generation. And now that you have a system that is global, you now need to make it universal. That's where the third generation came in. Now you have enhanced GPRS and edge. You also have higher access speeds and increased data storage. But see, the thing is, there are a lot of people on this planet, and every year, more people use this technology. People don't use their cell phones less every year, folks. They use them more. And what happens is, the portion of the frequency spectrum that we are all using gets overcrowded with usage and data. That increases dropped calls. Access becomes more and more restrictive. Interference increases. So what you have to do is you have to open up new space in the higher frequency range of the spectrum in order to bring all these new devices in. Which means you also have to make the system faster. You have to increase the data storage, and you have to put out more wattage. And you have to do it all without making it too expensive. So here we are today with the 4G, or 4G LTE, meaning long-term evolution. And it's still not enough. So what they're going to use are MM waves, millimeter waves, okay? These waves fall into the frequency range between 30 and 300 gigahertz, between microwaves and infrared waves. The problem with these waves is that they don't like to go through or around buildings, trees, things of that nature. So instead of having one big cell tower that transmits a signal in all directions to devices within range, you have many small cells, little base stations scattered everywhere, and the signals can now bounce around on these small cells, giving you access at all angles. But you still need a massive MIMO, a maximum input, maximum output antenna, which is basically a bigger cell tower, to get maximum input and output of power. Also, because of these small cells, every mobile device will now be individually locked onto, where every device is attached to this invisible tractor beam. This is called beamforming. This will keep live tracking of every device no matter where it is, because you wouldn't want to lose your signal, right? 5G is something that really cannot be defined because many do not even know what all the technologies that make up the fifth generation are going to be. Any company in telecommunications, they each have their own role to play, and they each have their own technologies to develop and contribute to this new generation, which many expect to see people connected to globally by 2020. The developing AI systems some of these companies are working on need this 5G network because these computers need access to everything within seconds. Understand that they want everyone connected at all times. Now, many adults will be resistant to these changes, but guess what? These children today will not be, because these are the things they are growing up with. The immediate, real issue with all this is the effects of the EMFs going to and from the new 5G compatible devices everyone is going to have to get. In this case, I'm talking about the small cells, the beamforming. How is that going to affect the body? Because these are higher frequencies being directed at you with more power. And with all the people, all the mobile devices, and all these separate cells, there are going to be signals bouncing all over the place. Technology is cool, but I think it's really time we stop to think about how unhealthy it is to just keep immersing ourselves deeper into some type of artificial construct that we think we can perfect.
So basically, if you're living in a city that has 5G antennas everywhere, who is stopping them from transmitting these frequencies to targeted individuals or to the whole city? So, we hear about cyber attacks all the time. And What is to say that, for example, another country hacks into the 5G network system and suddenly want to influence a whole city of millions of people?
These millennials have been engineered for this exact smart grid city. These kids have been engineered not to buy houses, not to buy cars, not to get married, not to have families, and really not to be able to find their way out of a paper bag without Googling it first. They have become totally dependent on the internet and computers for the majority of their existence. They don't even know what freedom is anymore. They don't even have the same concept of freedom or privacy. Privacy doesn't even exist for these kids. They have always lived their lives sharing everything about themselves on the computer, filming themselves all the time and being filmed all the time, and that's just normal to them. So the privacy concept is being quashed anyway. We've already shown you guys before in reports about the smart city. Everything in your house will be connected to the internet. It will be sending out signals in real time, data about everything you're doing in your house, what you're eating, how much energy you're using, water, I mean, just pretty much everything.
Our next guest called them, quote, a living, breathing crime scene for what happened in the 2016 election. Tristan Harris is a former design ethicist for Google and has been called the closest thing Silicon Valley has to a conscience by The Atlantic magazine. He joins us now here in the studio. Tristan, great to have you here on the show. So what did you hear today that makes you think things are any worse or better than perhaps you would have thought?
Well, I think no matter what these companies want to say that they do, they've unleashed Pandora's box. They have 5 million advertisers, Facebook has, cycling through the network every single day. There's no way to check what 5 million advertisers, how they get matched at hyper micro targeted, characteristics to each individual user. There's billions of channels basically on the new TV, and there's no way to basically know or be accountable to all of that complexity. So they've unleashed this civilization scale mind control machine that they don't even know what thoughts it's pushing into 2 billion people's minds. As Roger likes to say, 2 billion people use Facebook. That's more than the number of followers of Christianity. 1.5 billion people use YouTube. That's more than the number of followers of Islam. And these products have that much daily influence over that many people's thoughts.
Now, you first started calling attention to this when you were at Google.
That's right.
You worked there from 2012 to 2016, and you wrote the first Google memo, and you sent something within the company. What were you raising alarm bells about, and what was the response?
Well, basically what I said in this memo in 2013 was, I was a product manager. I was actually feeling kind of frustrated that I didn't think we were taking our responsibility seriously, and I made a presentation, basically said, never before in history have 50 engineers, 20 to 30 years old, living in San Francisco, where we are right now, influenced what 1 billion people are thinking and doing with their time and their attention. And we've enabled this channel that's exploiting people's cognitive biases. We're exploiting people's psychology. And we as Google, not as small little startups that are going to fix the problem, but Google and other large technology companies have a moral responsibility in addressing this problem. And the presentation went viral. It spread to 20,000 people. It became the #1 meme in the internal culture tracking system, and I had a talk with Larry, and I ended up working on this topic ever since 2013. And the real elephant in the room is the business model. The advertising-based business model means all of these attention-based companies, so YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, are all in the business of capturing people's attention. And YouTube's stated goals were, how do we get billions of hours watching on this product for as long as possible? And we have to ask ourselves, what do we actually care about? Should these products be designed for addiction, which is what they're designed for now? And this has huge public health consequences for children.
What are the consequences?
Well,
we had Jim Steyer of Common Sense Media on the show yesterday, and there really isn't a lot of research on how tech impacts children, shockingly, given that there's so much concern about it, but we actually don't know.
Well, there's a great article by Jean Twenge that got a lot of traction called Have Smartphones Destroyed a Generation? And it talks about many of the cultural and social impacts of how addiction to smartphones have changed our relationship. People are more isolated, more depressed, and if you just look at the dynamics, Snapchat, for example, puts the number of days in a row that you sent a message as a kid to all of your friends. And they're inventing this number. It's a persuasive, manipulative design technique to keep 2 kids on the hook, to keep this ball getting tossed back and forth every day. If they stop throwing the ball back and forth, they lose the number. And so kids start defining the currency of their friendship based on whether they're sending this empty message back and forth. And so you have literally, Snapchat's the #1 way for teenagers in the US to communicate. So you have 100 million teenagers that are basically out there throwing empty messages back and forth. Is any of this designed to help us, or is this just to addict us? Do thousands of people wake up and say, gosh, how can we strengthen the public square? No. Thousands of people go to work asked to drive up one number, which is how much are people engaging with and increasing the time they spend on these services. I want to live in a world where the tech industry is actually about helping humanity, and there's a lot of ways they can do that. And so we started this nonprofit, Time Well Spent, that's basically about changing and realigning technology with human values and what technology is supposed to be for. Why in the world would we not have it be that way?
Have you heard from Facebook? Have you heard from Mark or Cheryl or Google?
I've had lots of conversations, and there's people in the industry are my friends. My friends started Instagram. I think there's a reluctance, and there has been a reluctance to admit the extent of and scope of the problem and that the business model is the problem. And I think there's a lot of good intentions, but until we get clear that the business model of advertising is fundamentally misaligned with democracy.
It's made a lot of people very rich.
It has, and I think a lot of those people...
It's hard to walk away from.
It is hard to walk away from, and what Roger and I have found is that there's actually a lot of people who are ex-alumni from Facebook who did make a lot of money, and they actually agree with Roger and I. They agree, because it's not an opinion, it's just the truth. But it is hard to come out against the source of what funded you. Look at Chamath, who's VP of Growth at Facebook, said, hey, we built a mind control machine. And Sean Parker said the same thing. I can't believe what we're doing to children. But I think more and more voices are going to start to come out because they have to feel like it's safe to do so.
All right, Tristan Harris, former design ethicist at Google, now on this new crusade. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Us.
Thanks.
Great to have you.
So this was on wefforum.org. That's the Davos site, the Davos Elite. And it was written by Ida Auken, a member of parliament in Denmark.
We are 7 billion people now on the planet. We're going up to 9 billion. Think about 3 billion people entering the middle class, all wanting cars, mobile phones, computers, eating meat. I mean, this is a huge pressure on the resources we have.
But she's also hoping that people in the near future will own nothing. That's their big answer to income inequality. They've been talking about it at these conferences for years. They've been talking about universal income, what to do when people can't work. And their answer is people of the future will own nothing. The Davos Elite, preparing for their annual confab next month, have acknowledged the growing problem of the underman who's threatened by the rising cost of living, discouraged by the lack of better paying opportunities overall, and all the other factors that go into living in the society that we've been in. Their answer is that we should own nothing at all. And we talked a lot about the smart city. Here's what Ida Auken wrote in her column for Davos. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say, our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. But it makes perfect sense for us in this city. Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, these things became free, so it ended up not making sense for us to own much anymore.
Why do you want to own your cell phone? I mean, you want the function, you want the service, right? Why do you want to own a cell phone if you can just lease it? And if you lease, why shouldn't you lease your refrigerator or your washing machine or your dishwasher? Or why do you want to own it? I mean, it's not like the plastic in the middle. It's like, I own a broke dishwasher. I mean, wow.
People don't own cars anymore. There's driverless vehicles and flying cars for longer journeys. I think we've had that one promised before.
So why don't you want to go into a business model where the company owns it?
Ida Auken writes that in 2030 in our city, we don't pay any rent because someone else is using our free space whenever we don't need it. Someone else is sleeping in your living room when you're not around, or cooking in your kitchen when you're done making dinner. She writes, my living room is being used for business meetings when I'm not there, and once in a while I will choose to cook for myself. It's easy. Even the necessary kitchen equipment isn't owned. It's delivered to the door by drones within minutes. He's all over. She says that even shopping has changed. You don't really shop anymore. It's more of a choosing of things just to use and to borrow, and that she used to find it fun to actually pick things out for herself. But over time, she found the algorithm did it for her better and knows her own taste better than she does. And there's a flashback, of course, when AI and robots took over so much of our work. We suddenly had time to eat, to sleep well, to spend time with people. And instead of working, there was thinking time, creative time, and development time. But for a time, everything was just entertainment. She laments those who lost their way, who decided it was too much, all this technology, those who felt obsolete and useless when robots and AI took over.
You know how much a car drives, how much of its life? 4%. Or if you take a drill, it's used 15 minutes. It's not a lot, is it? And most of us, I know there are some guys here that really love to own a drill. But for the rest of us, we just want a hole in a wall, right? And I think we're going to a place where we just want mobility, where we don't care so much about owning a car. It's actually a little bit of trouble. If you just come to driverless car and pick me up and I can drive around and this car will be driving all the time.
Things could be taken away at a whim, but even this parliament member from Davos writes about the pitfalls. Once in a while, she writes, I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. Nowhere can I go and not be registered. I know that. I know somewhere everything I do, think, and dream of is recorded. But she still insists that this is a way better society because in the old society, terrible things were happening. There were lifestyle diseases from couch potatoes, and there was pollution and waste and climate change and congested cities and social unrest and unemployment and everything else that's part of life. So she says that's why the world of 2030 would be so much better if we owned nothing and we were basically peons who don't even have to do work and really just have to hang out. What happens if they don't like what I say? And what happens if I don't like or believe in what they do anymore? The theme park ride would become torture rather than entertainment if you were never allowed off of it. And basically, I think once reality kicked in, it might not be the best system. Because in this future system which they're building, they're shifting people into it, and the internet's a huge part of it, there is no guarantee of freedom.
Davos, Bilderberg, George Soros, the United Nations, all these other elites and foundations are really pursuing universal basic income.
And the solution they're throwing around? Universal basic income. One giant government dole that we would all have to rely upon to take care of us. A session was held on whether or not Soros's foundation should seriously pursue the idea of universal basic income. The program notes that it was something other USP board members had already been discussing and refers to a future of work inquiry. The discussion centered around paying each American U.S. citizen over the age of 21 and not in prison a flat income of $10,000 a year. They point out that this solution would do nothing to address the wealth gap or income inequality, but it would at least improve outcomes for individuals who might otherwise be building shanty houses on the edge of town and under highway overpasses. Davos discussed it as well in a session titled, A World Without Work.
The old jobs are being automated. There's no question about that. Machines will eventually get better than humans at many of these things. That doesn't mean we won't have meaningful activities. Probably what will change is our definition of what earns you an income, what earns you a living.
We detach our work and income?
That could be a possibility, yeah.
Really? That's a new paradigm.
Yeah, in the sense that you don't have to work to get a basic income.
Now, having a universal minimum income is one of those ways, and in fact, it's one that I'm very much in favor of, as long as we know how to apply it without taking away the incentive to work at the lower end of the market.
And Bilderberg discussed, quote, the precariat and the middle class. Basically, a general idleness and aimlessness of people who could become revolutionary, who could be subjected to civil unrest, who will probably be on social welfare and benefits for the rest of their lives and have nothing else to look forward to. Bilderberg invited Silicon Valley's Sam Altman to discuss his efforts towards providing basic income for a society that would be largely without work in the near future. Just a week and a half after Bilderberg's June 2016 meeting, it was reported that Altman's company, Y Combinator, was running a basic income experiment, billed as the social vaccine of the 21st century. In Oakland, California, where some 100 families were chosen to receive $1,000 or $2,000 a month in order to collect, quote, valuable data from the pilot on how to implement, manage, and scale further UBI incentives. The Guardian went on to point out that UBI is in some ways welfare for capitalists. Now more people can drive for Uber and work for TaskRabbit at even lower wages, because UBI subsidizes the meager paychecks earned by hustling in the shared economy. The tech companies take home the profit while facing even less pressure to pay a living wage to non-employee employees. Also keep in mind that it targets to give everyone the same amount and to destigmatize government assistance. That way everyone will come on board, meaning the wealthiest in society are getting the same stipend as everyone else, hence the word universal. The wealth gap and income inequality would continue to grow in consort with the burgeoning, increasingly underpaid slave class. A universal basic income, just enough to hold it all together. Poverty, or at least dependence, will be institutionalized.
We have this thing happening now it's called cyborgification.
Right.
And cyborgification is just the technological extension of oneself in order to make up for the vulnerabilities in the human condition, right? So the cell phone can be used for good to call your mom, but it can also be weaponized against you as a surveillance tool. It's something that people take to the bathroom with them, that you take it everywhere. So you have multiple things that can happen. Your GPS, I mean, if you go to Facebook, since you're talking about Facebook, just from the app, it tracks you. And I don't really see the reason why the Facebook app should be collecting that type of metadata.
Why?
It's not just the metadata, it's not just the GPS, it's, they call it hot miking. And you can, there's camera activation malware as well. And this is very common. It's on your computer, people put on your computer. It's in the intelligence community, it's a blackmail tool. So this is how it's done. This is how you control someone of influence. A payload is compiled tools. They call it malware. So, or ransomware, I mean, whatever. But it scans your system, finds the vulnerability on your computer, in your server, whatever, and it delivers tools. So it's a hacking term. And so an example, I deal a lot with critical infrastructure. So one thing that most nation states want to get access to are critical infrastructure executives with elevated privileges, which means they have access to IP, electronic health records, like the actual treasure trove of all that data. So you do a thing called spear phishing, where you act like you're a recruiter. You give them a call, hey look, I got this job, twice what you're making now. I'm gonna send you their offer. Don't tell anybody, keep this on download. And then they deliver that, and what it does, it'll hot mic, have camera mic activation, but it also has things like remote access Trojans. So the objective then becomes to get into the network at that critical infrastructure facility, maybe the grid, to get into the network and move laterally throughout the network in search of the data. What we're seeing now for psychological operations, it's not just nation states, but it's special interest groups that have an interest in anything from injecting the US culture with chaos. You use metadata that's curated by dragnet surveillance capitalists like Facebook. You then write a psychographic algorithm so you can start targeting that particular psychoarchetype, the particular ideological variant silo. Then what you do is you bombard them, that silo, with messaging across the vectors from weaponized accounts. So pro-Trump, it's gonna come from a completely weaponized MAGA Twitter account, Facebook page, YouTube channel. They're fanning the flame of hate Trump, hate Hillary, love Trump, just as part of a chaos op, a digital chaos op. And we're seeing this more and more. So yeah, I would say the psychological warfare is really picking up big, using the digital vectors. But Right now it's about dopamine hits, creating chaos and steering perceptions using ideological variant slanted takes on the news.
Interesting.
Look at where the media is coming from. Look for leading information, because the information warfare by our mainstream media against the citizen, you see the alt-right, you do not want to get on the alt-right's bad side, because they will not stop. Then you have, on the left, you've got Antifa, like all these other guys. And everybody is sincerely trying to get there, to grow their digital tribe. You know, but this is being weaponized against them.
Both sides, you're saying?
Both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides. Because right now, from a nation-state perspective, chaos is the op. You know, whoa, why chaos? Well, because it has economic impact. It has social fabric impact. Take the information out there that's being force-fed to you, pretty much. Take it with, it's a grain of salt, man. But I think that I'm seeing the impact now for stuff that I started in Congress 2 years ago. You know, with Senator Markey, we have the Cyber Shield Act. It's a necessity for cybersecurity to, you know, manufacture technology with security embedded into it, as opposed to as an afterthought, which is a national security problem. Because as a hacker, I'll tell you, all I need is that vulnerable device within an IoT microcosm, and I got you.
Wow.
I got you.
They have the same problem with cell phones. You know, it's kind of crazy today that we live quite comfortably in a world that George Orwell would have thought was super crazy.
So what do we say to those who say, you know what, listen, privacy is out the door. Everything's about convenience right now, and forsaking privacy is worth it given the convenience of devices like Alexa?
You say, well, then you should be happy. I mean, those kind of people, they're loving life right now because we are constantly giving up privacy, and we are only going to give up more privacy because we're entering an era of artificial intelligence.
Like we all carry a phone with a microphone that can be turned on really at any time without our knowledge, with a GPS that knows our position, and a camera, and well, kind of all of our personal information. We do this willingly, and it's kind of wild to think that that's the case.
But the way privacy and technology work is we just give it up as time goes on.
But that we'll use this data, whether or not they're large corporations or governments, to undermine our privacy, which is the foundation of a free society. Well, I was kind of shocked in reviewing the state of things to realize that these had all occurred. The digital age has brought us many wonders, but when you look at the bottom line of how it's impacted our economy and society, it's a troubling report.
Warns using it on air travelers could be a dangerous step toward building a more powerful surveillance infrastructure on Americans.
There's a pretty good chance that over time, if we don't put in place checks and balances and really, you know, stop the application of this powerful surveillance technology on Americans, it will inevitably expand to other things.
So the problem is here that we seem to be forgetting just how much information we share, as we add it bit by bit in what I like to call data crumbs. Sure, that one picture you upload doesn't say a lot, but don't forget that this information is combined. And when it is, it provides an incredibly in-depth picture into your life.
I have exposure to the very most cutting edge AI, and I think people should be really concerned about it. I keep sounding the alarm bell.
When it comes to the rest of us, Google says that we've only got time until 2030 when robots can match human intelligence.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the right to privacy is not a fundamental right, but look at today's day and age, it's all digitized, all the information.
You don't have a choice, but you're going there voluntarily. This is not that. This is something far more dangerous. We are in something like a digital emergency, where the state or the government is taking all your data and linking it to everything else. When you buy an air ticket, a rail ticket, a ration card, a passport, scholarship, whatever you do, they're all being compulsorily taken. It started as voluntary, now it is mandatory, and it's everywhere.
AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization, in a way that car accidents, airplane crashes, faulty drugs, or bad food were not. They were harmful to a set of individuals within society, of course, but they were not harmful to society as a whole. AI is a fundamental existential risk for human civilization, and I don't think people fully appreciate that.
We give them a set of rules and they follow them. In this instance, and we're talking 10 to 20 years away, I mean, for true artificial intelligence, it's going to be a very different place.
This is really like the scariest problem to me, I'll tell you. Yeah, so I really think we need government regulation.
First of all, I'd like to say that we always had a disruption. It's just, it never was so disruptive as it is these days. And there is a reason for that. The reason for that is that disruption has become digital.